This program is sponsored by Dave Stahl. It's time to get educated on your Second Amendment rights. Welcome to 2 full hours of Gun Owners Radio. Your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz, will teach you about firearms, self-defense, and the laws that affect your rights to keep and bear arms. Visit gunownersradio.com with questions to learn how to become a sponsor of Gun Owners Radio and get involved. Together, we will win. Now here's your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks, welcome to Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Hey, did you know law-abiding gun shops and manufacturers had their accounts shut down because companies like Shopify and PayPal think guns are inappropriate? Credit card companies and banks should not be used to limit your Second Amendment rights. That's why we are so excited to welcome 365 Glacier Payments as a 10-ring partner. 365 Glacier Payments specializes in serving companies in the firearm industry. If you have a firearms business and accept credit cards, give them a call today so you can enjoy the peace of mind that your accounts won't be shut down, and also enjoy the best rates. Visit their website at 365glacierpayment.com. That's 365glacierpayment.com. And hey, tune in to the YouTube live stream. You got 3 handsome dudes on YouTube right now. Just go to youtube.com/gunownersradio.
Yeah.
Help spread the word. Hit the like button, subscribe button, leave a comment or two, and talk to as many people as you can. And again,
I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, welcome again to our 10-ring partner, 365 Glacier Payment. We really are excited about having them. We're going to talk about them a little bit. The summer picnic's coming up on the 18th, and activist update is out.
Yeah, so it's extremely important. The 365 Glacier Payments. Yeah. I get calls from gun shops fairly regularly, and they get messed with. There was a few years ago, Operation, what was it called? Operation Choke Point or Bottleneck or something like that, something real creative. And the idea was that some of the anti-gun politicians and people in the administration under Obama, what they wanted to do was stop commerce for the gun industry.
Anything and everything they can figure out how to stop, they will.
So I've gotten calls from gun shops saying, hey, we came in this morning and they just shut us down. Our credit card processor shut us down. So even if you're not a gun shop or a gun store, if you're looking for credit card processing, 365 Glacier Payments, check them out.
Yeah, because they do more than gun shops.
Yeah. They just help you process, but what they don't do is they don't discriminate against you if you are a gun shop, and that happens. That happens to some of the big industry players too.
Yeah, see, we need a lot more of that too, because you're seeing again the left do that kind of stuff where they're using business to discriminate against people because of their maybe political views, because you see that a lot with conservatives, with the stuff on the social media platforms, and you see it now with this. I think PayPal is sort of like that, isn't it? Because I think you can't mention guns or anything on PayPal, if I remember right.
PayPal was one of the processors that one of the gun shops had. That's how they were processing all their payments, and PayPal shut them down.
Yeah.
Well, that'll happen.
Just without any warning. It'd be one thing if they said, hey, look, you got 30 days or you got 45 days. Mm-hmm. We just don't want to do this anymore. It's not a part of our business plan. I actually support that. If you're if you own a business, you should be able to decide, hey, this is the kind of customer I want or don't want. But come on, just showing up on a Monday morning and finding out you can't do business that's ridiculous.
I'm happy people are stepping up.
I am too.
Like 365 Glacier, and I hope there's others out there doing that.
So how was Utah?
Utah was awesome. It was a lot of fun. When
are you moving?
I'm not moving to Utah, believe me. But we went to the High West Distillery, which is I had the best whiskey I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah. Truly, seriously. It's not an exaggeration, and that's not something I just throw around. It was it's called their Campfire bottle. It's called Campfire, and it was they talk about like the complexity of wine or whatever. So this Campfire, this was the most complex I've ever had. The first swallow, you kind of get a little bit of a burn, and then you get like this caramel sweetness, and then you get this smokiness.
Wow.
And it takes a good 15 seconds for all that to happen.
So I have to ask, before this whiskey, what was the best whiskey
Before
or bourbon
that.
yes you've ever experienced up to that point, just for some context here?
I probably, there was a bottle of I can't remember the exact year. Probably there was this Oban bottle that I liked a lot.
Okay, Scotch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now you have a new best friend.
Now I have a new best friend. I mean, this is outstanding, and it's one of those deals. You know how they rate them 1 to 100. This got like a 99.
Wow.
I mean, it's not.
Was it made in Utah?
Yeah, their distillery was awesome. Their distillery was really, really remarkably beautiful and modern. And we went and took a tour, and then they sat you down. They gave you a flight and said, okay, here's our. They're one of the. I hadn't really experienced a lot of true rye, and they had a rye that was really, really good. So they talked about the difference between rye and had some of their stuff out there. It was really good, but that Campfire is amazing.
Can you get it locally?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I'll look at my local Albertsons.
Where all great, high quality spirits are sold.
Yeah, Albertsons.
But I mean, my go-to is I like Woodford Reserve and I like Makers, both bourbons.
I like Jameson's.
Yeah, I like Jameson. You're gonna laugh at me. I like Jameson when I'm following it with a shot of pickle juice.
Oh, there you go.
It's called a pickleback, and it's amazing.
Until you try it, don't complain.
Well,
right?
I don't know what it is. I'm not a chemist, but the pairing of Jameson with pickle juice is amazing.
Well, have you ever tried this sometime? If you're a tequila fan, a really good shot of tequila, a really good ice-cold shot of orange juice, and a really nice ice-cold shot of tomato juice.
Wow.
T-O-T. You do one of those, and I'll put a $100 bill on the table that within 10 minutes you'll have another one. And they will sneak up and pound you into the ground if you let them.
So we used to do that when I used to bartend at Old Town Mix. We would mix up something that they called Sangrita, and there was a bunch of stuff in it, but mostly there was orange juice, there was tomato juice.
Yeah, but see, you got to do these separate.
Well, no, that's what we used to do, and we would pour that out, and people would chase shots of tequila with it.
I tell you.
Tasty.
Anyway,
well, so
this
we're
is
having
a gun show, right?
I know. What happened?
What happened?
So on August 18th, we're having our summer picnic. That is every summer we like to just take over a spot and have a nice big party with some food rather than having meetings this month. We're just going to have the summer picnic. It's at Mike's Barbecue in Escondido, which is delicious.
Wednesday night.
You're going to love it. There's no cover. There's no cost. Just come on out. We'll have light hors d'oeuvres, and
then if you want to order a dinner or something like that.
More than welcome, but you don't have to. You're not required. Just come on out and meet a bunch of people. And it's a good opportunity for folks in the South to meet folks in the North and meet folks in the East.
Middle.
And, yeah, we're all going to meet. Yeah, it's kind of North, but we'll meet kind of in the middle. So come on out. Check out our website for details. Look at our email for details. Our activist update is out. And Moose, if you're out there, you want a shotgun, buddy. We have a tabletop contest, people that work the tabletops, and Moose, you were the winner this month, so congratulations. And we mentioned that on the activist update.
He won a shotgun?
Won a shotgun. Yesterday, we signed up 20 new members thanks to John Becker and Moose, thanks to Jeff Malik, and thanks to Elliot. You guys are awesome.
Where were you guys at?
They're all over. They were at a couple different gun shops.
Oh, so you're just surrounding the counties.
That's right. We're exactly surrounding and taking over.
That's good. Well, hey, somebody's got to do it. All right, hey, let's take it. Well, no, we still got another minute.
So yeah, but check out the activist update. Go to our website. Check out our YouTube channel. There's a lot of good things going on. We had to say goodbye to Karen from Riverside. She moved out of state because of a job opportunity, which we're super sad about. She was running Riverside County, but we have a couple of folks, one in Orange and one in Riverside, that are taking over, and we're barreling forward.
I can't wait. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Gun Owners Radio, because coming up next, we're going to talk. This month's theme is medical.
Yep.
So we're going to have a very special guest on from Traumapak.
Ofer Lichtman from Traumapak is here to talk about an often neglected aspect of gun ownership, which is medical training.
No kidding. Hey, self-defense and emergencies can happen to anyone, and there's no guarantee that the justice system will be on your side. Gun owners should have coverage for the legal battles after your self-defense battle. And while you protect your family and property, U.S. Law Shield is here to defend you 24/7, 365 days a year with a comprehensive self-defense coverage at an affordable price. Bad guys don't take days off, and neither does our coverage. Guess what, Gun Owner Radio listeners? You can get a free T-shirt when you join. Use promo code Gun Owners Radio at uslawshield.com. All right. We have our special guest on the line.
How's it going?
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
I want to make sure we got your name right. It's say your name for us.
It's Ofer Lichtman.
Okay,
perfect.
Yeah,
Good. We
did
did
right.
good.
Excellent. We got it. And you're from Traumapak, right?
That's correct.
And tell us about Traumapak.
Sure. Well, Traumapak is a first responder owned. We're all firefighter paramedics. We have law enforcement and some veterans. And we started an effort to start with our peers. So we were teaching our peers response to trauma and high threat events such as active shooter, bombings, terrorist attacks, how to respond to that. And we naturally saw that the reality is that we are never going to be first on scene. And that's something that a lot of folks in our industry are failing to recognize, that there's a delay in response and there's a delay in how fast we get there. And even when we get there, it doesn't mean we're there to save lives. Initially, we're there to eliminate a threat. That's specifically for law enforcement. So we were on this journey of educating our peers and realized that we have to also be doing the right thing. That's educating the public and the community to be the ones that are kind of buying us time and doing all those stopgap measures until we get on scene to buy us time so we can, initiate more advanced care. So there's a lot of things that can be done to help save lives early on by civilians, and our goal is to teach that. And we naturally got into making products and putting together really high-end trauma kits that we call Traumapak. And we love doing it. So we've been making Traumapaks all over the country. We ship them all over the world now, and it's a lot of fun.
So calling it a first aid kit is nowhere near. That sounds like it's an understatement to say the least.
Right, and that's one of those old wise tales of, oh yeah, I have a first aid kit in the house, small Band-Aids and tweezers. And you always felt like you had this security blanket just because someone had a first aid kit around. Well, you realize, and we actually really try to follow the data and look at what kills someone in trauma, and specifically what are the things that you can do in a trauma that is actually fixable. And we call those things what are preventable death injuries. So our kits, and there's a lot of other great companies out there that do the same, but our kits specifically treat preventable death injuries that there's something that you can actually fix. Those are the items we put in our kits. We don't have tweezers. We do have some kits that have all those plus the extra nice to have that we call boo-boo kits. But a first aid kit would be that. It's a boo-boo kit. It's Band-Aids. It's, tweezers, a little bit of burn cream. But it's not meant to save your life from, extreme hemorrhage or a collapsed lung or so forth.
My gosh. So, and that sounds like it's probably the most common preventable death would be bleeding out. Is that
so bleeding out is one of the foremost preventable, yes, and it actually is the one that has the most attention because it is so easy to fix. A lot of the data that we initiated based our training on, and we based how we build our kits was originally from the military because they keep the most data in the world for injuries and injury patterns and how to fix them. And that was what initially was told to everyone is, hey, bleeding is the number one preventable cause of death. Now, the reason that bleeding was told to be number one is if you envision a soldier, they're wearing ballistic armor on their chest, they have a helmet, and they're usually behind cover when they engage in combat. So a lot of the areas that end up being injured, especially from IEDs, is the extremities. So, of course, that's where most of the death comes from is these extremity traumas, where if you stop the bleeding in the extremities, they would obviously survive. So the data from the military shows that, yes, bleeding is the number one preventable cause of death. But I want you to kind of twist that and realize that, hey, in the civilian world, which what we are dealing here stateside, No one is wearing body armor when they go to the movies. That's as recent as a week ago, right? You're not going to go to Corona and watch a movie with a bulletproof vest or helmet. And the easiest place to shoot someone is the torso. So what we are finding is that in the civilian population, the number one cause of preventable death is chest trauma.
Wow.
And then after that is extremity bleeding. Yes.
Okay, so you said there's 4 total, or four most common.
Yes.
Severe hemorrhage or bleeding out is 1. 2 is chest trauma. What's 3 and 4?
Yeah, so 3 and 4 was going to be airway compromise. So people that lose blood, for example, or have a head injury and they go unconscious, if they're laying flat, we find that they lose control of the back of their tongue, and if there's, again, flat, it's going to fall back onto their airway, and they'll suffocate. And within a few minutes, it's irreversible, and they'll be dead. So there's simple things a civilian can learn, whether it's putting them on their side or opening their airway with some techniques with their hands, or in some cases, if they have to walk away, there is a tool that we can use that's a nasopharyngeal airway just to maintain their airway as you walk away. But simple techniques like that. And then the last item, which is the most, the one that everybody forgets, is hypothermia. So even in our beautiful weather here in California, and I know you guys are in San Diego, truly have the best weather in the country, but even at an average of 72 degrees outside, sunny, you put someone that has bled out on the street, even if the ground's hot, this time of day, their core body temperature will drop, which will lead to this vicious cycle that's called trauma's lethal triad. And what that means is as you bleed out, you lose your ability to clot because you're losing your body temperature, and because the blood actually moves around body heat too, not just oxygen. So if you lose your body temperature, you lose your ability to clot, and it makes you bleed more. As you bleed more, you, again, lose more of your ability to clot because you become acidic, and it's this vicious cycle. So the only way to stop it is by keeping them warm and giving them blood. So what you can do is keep them warm. So in our kits, we have things for major bleeding. We have things for airway. We have things for the chest injuries, for the collapsed lungs, and then we have things for hypothermia.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. So, and again, those are the 4 most common preventable injuries that would result in death.
Right. And again, there's a lot of injuries that people go, well, how come you're not treating a head injury? If someone has a major bullet to the head and they're unconscious, well, we know from the data that someone who is not breathing, has no pulse, and is shot in the head, it doesn't matter what trauma kit you have or if you have a surgeon right there. There's some injuries that are not preventable death, so they're not going to survive a type of injury, straight to the heart, straight to the head. So those are injuries we don't we teach in our classes. These are the patients you don't treat. And when you talk about training, it's not just getting a trauma kit and watching a couple of videos. Like we put a lot of videos online. There's something about sitting down in a class and learning the differences of, hey, this is a major bleed, this is a non-major bleed, this is a bleed you would treat first, this is one that you would treat second, or even, hey, this person has bled so much that it's irreversible, they're going to die. And if you only have one tourniquet and you have to choose between this person who has bled a ton of blood and this person who's bled less blood, they both need a tourniquet. Those are the decisions we teach in our classes that you wouldn't just learn by watching, an Instagram video. The decision-making model is what's really important.
That's interesting.
Actually, Ofer, I wanted to go back up just for a second. You talked about hypothermia, which actually is something that we do see out here because we've got mountains out here. And we used to see, back in the days when I used to do search and rescue stuff, we would see a lot of that because people come from down here from the city where it's 80 degrees in the wintertime, and they get up there and they're not prepared and they don't realize how cold it gets. But the other thing that we see here a lot in this time of year is hyperthermia, because hiking is really big out here, and especially in the East County. And it's it's not uncommon to be around 100 degrees out here this time of year, and we see a lot of that. Do you guys address that too in your material?
We do, and specifically when it comes to trauma in our industry, where we see people dying from the hyperthermia and specifically from trauma, is actually the canine community. So if you look at a lot of folks that have dogs, whether they're working dogs or not, you work a dog to a point where their core temperature rises above a certain degree, and everybody knows their dog the best. It's irreversible, and that is actually one of the most preventable causes of death in canines, other than bleeding out, is actually the hyperthermia for dogs. So we have a canine kit, and we make sure we have flexible thermometers and all those, so that way the handler can always check the temperature of the canine. But in the trauma setting specifically, you hardly ever see hyper. You see more of a hypo, and that's one of those preventable ones. On the trauma side,
I used to have a Belgian Malinois, and we went hiking one day out in the desert, and the next day he was limping, and I thought maybe he injured himself. Took him to the vet, and he had burned his pads on the sand. And with dogs, they don't tell you. Like, they're so tough, they don't show any pain. I felt horrible. Yeah. To this day, I feel horrible.
Anytime I see somebody walking a dog in 100-degree weather on the asphalt, I will roll the window down and say, take your shoes and socks off and walk with your dog. Well, you know that I didn't know there was the reason I bring the canine kit up is my wife shows championship Rotties and Dachshunds. And she goes all over the place to show these dogs, and nothing freaks her out when she knows she has to show especially the Rotties in 80-plus degree weather. I am definitely going to get a kit for her to take with her when she goes to dog shows, because I think that's huge.
Oh, excellent. Well, and then specifically with dogs, and I wasn't planning on talking about canines, but it's all fair game. There is always subtle hints, right? So dogs will give us hints with their breathing pattern, how they, their tongue is hanging out. It's all a way for them to cool, because they can't cool through the skin like we do.
That's right.
But they use their tongue.
Oh, yeah. My wife she could have a whole show just on that alone. All right. Well, don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to keep our special guest on for another segment. Hey, by the way, all you YouTube fans, big shout out, Dr. Exotic and BB. Thanks for watching. And you two guys now get on the phone and tell all your friends. Hey, Blackhound Optics, accurate, affordable, guaranteed, sporting optics that go the distance. Backed by customer service that goes that extra mile. Great guys, great products, and a great company that is making optics affordable. On top of quality optics, they pay very close attention to the customer experience. Did you know their scopes come with mounts? So you don't have to worry about finding one that fits. We are so excited to have them on as official partners of the show. Ask for them at your local gun store, or you could just go online to blackhoundoptics.com.
All right, we're talking to Ofer Lichtman from Traumapak. So talk a little bit about your background. I kind of skipped over it a little bit. You said that the company is run by first responders?
Yeah, so I started in the EMS actually when I was 14 years old in Israel. Started volunteering on an ambulance and just fell in love with the industry of EMS. And when I moved to the States, continued that passion. And I work now as a firefighter paramedic here in Southern California. And it's my full-time job. And then my other full-time job is the CVO of Traumapak. So definitely do a lot of the medicine and use everything that I put out there, and all our guys do. So it's always fun to try and research new things and put it out there.
So you grew up in Israel?
That's correct.
Is first aid, is there a bigger emphasis on first aid and trauma in Israel than there is in the United States from your perspective?
So let me give you an example, and I could kind of summarize it. If you see someone get injured in the States, this was my experience coming here as a young adult. They'd be laying on the street with no one typically helping for a while until someone helps. There's that, human reaction where everybody jumps in after that. But in Israel, where I grew up, it is so embedded in the culture of helping one another, especially when someone's hurt, that we as first responders would have to push people away that were trying to help because they would get in the way. So it is really part of the culture of, since you're youth, to volunteer and help. And then with folks doing military service or any type of volunteer service where you're learning these skills, you tend to have a culture of resilience that people want to be involved and help.
That's interesting. So is that a culture you're hoping to change?
And I think we are in a certain way. I mean, we've in the city I work in, we've trained over 10% of our population through the fire department I'm with.
Wow.
And then with my company, we've reached pretty big numbers too. We've almost trained as far as Riverside City, county. We've done already half the teachers in that county with a plan to do another half next year. So we try to take kind of this approach where we start from teachers, because then we can impact the schools. And then as they grow up and then we do the children, then they go out into the community and they kind of take that with them. So I think it's definitely something we can make contagious.
You know, the first air-to-air kill in the War for Independence in Israel was by a pilot named Gideon Lichtman. You're not related, are you?
No.
Long shot.
So how's the response in your community when you offer these classes? I mean, do you have no problem filling them?
Right. So I'll talk about two different things. And there's a call to action called Stop the Bleed. So Stop the Bleed was a national campaign that really focused only, though, on that hemorrhage piece that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. So they kind of missed the ball where instead of saying, hey, let's focus on all these preventable death things, they focused on what they thought was the most popular and catchy one, which was hemorrhage control. So they started this initiative teaching Stop the Bleed. And that has been great. What we've done in my city and now throughout the country through Traumapak is we teach all those four things. But since you have a group with you, why not also teach them survival techniques for active shooter, high threat events, and also how to recognize these precursors. So our classes focus on before, during, and after a high threat event, meaning before an event, if you're in a business, how do you recognize precursors? If you're in the community, how do you recognize precursors? Then if something happens, what are your best chances to survive? And then if you are injured or your friend is injured, what you should do to save them.
Now, as far as first aid and especially reacting to severe trauma, what's a myth or a misconception that needs to be corrected?
Well, I think there's the two biggest myths in the trauma and something we've all as educators are trying to demystify is people will say, oh, I don't need a tourniquet because I have and they'll fill it with a belt, a rope, a bungee cord, because they saw it somewhere in a movie or someone's friend told them that, oh, when I was in the military, I used the belt. That is one of the worst myths that has affected saving lives. And the reason is, and I'll explain it very simply, is a belt it's obviously intended to hold your pants up. It has holes every so often, but let's just take the most simple leather belt that you can go through the buckle and pull back on itself. If by chance you are able to have a wide enough belt, and data shows you need at least 1.5 inches width for a tourniquet. So let's just say it's 1.5 inches belt. You're able to pull it back on itself with mechanical advantage and actually slow down the bleeding. The problem is you have no effective way of holding it in that position other than literally not letting go for 20, 30, 40 minutes until they get to a surgeon. It's just not going to happen. No one can hold a belt like that. So then people think they stop it for a second and then they try to tuck it in something and automatically it loosens up. The reality is belts are not effective and neither are a lot of improvised tourniquets. So we have to learn to just rely on the quality gear out there. So tourniquets that are commercial, that have a windlass rod, that have a way to lock in place, that's what's effective. Sure, if you have nothing and you're waiting for someone to bring you a real tourniquet and you have nothing, of course, use something improvised, but don't rely on improvising. Make sure you're prepared. And I would say the second biggest myth that we're always finding is all these wives' tale. People will say, if you have a bullet hole, you can stick a tampon in it. That's, again, one of those myths that every couple of years comes back to life because either a celebrity or someone that has a lot of followers on social media will make a video and post it. Whether they're serious or not, these are myths that catch legs and people believe it. A tampon is meant to absorb about 10 cc's of blood and prevent, all the issues with, it's a feminine product. Well, if a bullet hole has a hole in the body that creates a cavity, we use specifically gauze, and even better so, hemostatic gauze. And what we're trying to accomplish is pressure in the cavity. A tampon doesn't create pressure. It's just basically like a seal and absorbs until it's full, and then you replace it. What we're trying to do is create a high amount of pressure in a cavity when we pack a wound, so that way it reaches the vessel and occludes it and stops it from bleeding out. So those are two huge myths, in addition to thinking that you can buy a cheap kit on maybe like one of those websites that rhyme with Amazon. But if something is too cheap and sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah. There's unfortunately a lot of fake products out there, whether it's a tourniquet or fake hemostatic agents, or even if it is real, it's expired. So just be aware where you're buying your stuff.
So, Ofer, let me ask you this. For somebody that, say, wants to keep a kit in their car, how many different levels do you sell? Or do you just have like one kit for the car, one kit for the home? How would somebody look at your site and figure out which one to get?
Well, to be frank, if there's ever a question, we're always available to answer that, even through the site. And if we're not available, we'll get back to them. However, we broke it down into the first responder community, civilian kits, off-roading kits, and so forth. But it starts with always a basic, intermediate, and advanced. Basic, you would be able to literally buy it and again, take some kind of Stop the Bleed class, get some education through our Instagram, and at least have some common understanding of, this is when I would use this. Or if you're with someone that has the skill set, at least they have the equipment. But all our kits are meant for the public, with the exception of our advanced kits or our medic kits, which have stuff that you need a prescription through a medical director. So those are for our medics and advanced EMTs. But it will say that on. So all the advanced, the intermediate, and the basics are for civilians. The only ones that are not are the medic ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's I took a lot of first aid classes as a Boy Scout in the 80s, and people, maybe chuckle at that, but I got to tell you, the first aid training from the Boy Scouts was fantastic. And on top of that, our scoutmasters happened to be corpsmen in the Navy, so you got a little extra on top of the basics. But the technology for first aid has come so far. The hemostatic sponges and powders and products, and the fact that you can just buy a tourniquet these days. Because I remember during first aid training in the 80s, they would spend a significant amount of time teaching you how to make a tourniquet out of different things.
Right.
And one other thing that maybe I want to make sure that we get this right. It used to be that they'd say only apply a tourniquet if you knew the person was going to lose the limb, and then that seems to have changed with more experience and research. What's your take on that? What's the real answer?
So that's great. I appreciate you bringing that up. So data and then study after study and blood shed from battlefield has proven that you have at least 2 hours of a truly applied tourniquet correctly, so meaning it has stopped all circulation to a limb, and for 2 hours there'll be no damage to the limb. So if you think about where we are and how far we'll get to a trauma center, if you put a tourniquet on someone, and it doesn't have to be if you think, oh my God, they're bleeding so much I can't stop it, it's a last resort. No, we now teach people that is their first line, because if you just stop the bleeding, now you can back up, take a breath, reevaluate. Okay, now I have that patient over there. Maybe this patient needs something else. I'll come back to him, but at least I stopped the bleeding. So you have 2 hours before any nerve damage.
And that's a lifetime. 2 hours is a lifetime. That's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time, but in the reality, it could, like you said, you're in the mountains in San Diego. You have someone that has an injury. It could be a hunting accident. And that may be exactly what they need, but that's where we come in with the helicopters and so forth. But that's how we save lives, is knowing the data and knowing the technology.
What's your website, Ofer?
We are www.traumapak.com, and that's with a PAK.
All right.
And we would love to offer your listeners 10% off with using the code Gun Owners Radio.
All right. Well, I'm going to reach back out to you because I'm here 5 hours, and my first hour is all off-road related, and I think your off-road kit would be awesome for the off-road listeners. So I'll be in touch with you during the week, and we'll get you to call back in next Sunday.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for what you do, and stay safe, stay prepared.
You got it. That's a great way to go.
So Kristie Bruce Lane is running for State Assembly District 77 and is here to let us know why gun owners should support her.
But first, we are so proud to have our good buddy John Dillon and the Dillon Law Group as our show sponsor. He has been with us since the day we started. And did you know Dillon Law is one of the attorneys on the Miller versus Bonta case? And if you have legal matters that involves firearms, then you need to call John. If you have questions about red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you need to know that your guns are California compliant, call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws, 760-642-7150, or you can visit his website at dillonlawgp.com.
So as you guys all know, I run an organization called San Diego County Gun Owners. We're all members and proud supporters. And as you all, of course, know, I'm on the radio show Gun Owners Radio that you're listening to now. And San Diego County Gun Owners does not endorse people, our candidates on the state or federal level, and Gun Owners Radio doesn't endorse people at all. But this is the first time you've ever heard me say this. I personally am endorsing someone who's running for the assembly because I'm so impressed with her. Mm-hmm. I'm so impressed with her campaign and her chances of winning. You know, a lot of districts are drawn up in such a way that one team or the other one is guaranteed to win. But she's in a district that's absolutely winnable. She's a outstanding candidate. So I personally am endorsing Kristie Bruce Lane for State Assembly in District 77. We're going to have a fundraiser for her. I'm going to have a fundraiser for her in a couple of months here. So I invited her on the show to introduce her to everybody and talk a little bit about her campaign. Kristie, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about your background. Where do you come from? What did you do before you were a candidate? Have you ever been elected to anything before?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in the Valley in Bakersfield in an agricultural family. I went away to school like we all do, graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a couple, 2 or 3 majors, crop science, nutritional science with a biotech background as well. And then my background is mainly in agriculture and healthcare. And, of course, as you grow older, I get a little wiser, and I work, a lot in the community. I'm a part of many boards in the community, started my own foundation called the Thumbprint Project Foundation. And you come to a point in life and you figure out, and then I have a son, too. I had a child, and you just see the way the community's going, the world's working, and it's just going in the wrong direction fast. And I'm not the type to let grass grow under my feet, and I knew I had to do something. I jumped out of the corporate world, jumped headfirst into politics. I did win my last election in 2020, was elected as director for the Leavenhaven Municipal Water Board. And, now I'm running for assembly, and there's a lot of things I want to accomplish in Sacramento. The dysfunction of Sacramento is hurting our families, hurting our kids, killing our elderly. And, we are now in a position where we have to prove to the government on why we're allowed to exercise our freedom. It's not okay with me. So what I am for is cutting taxes for hardworking San Diego families, supporting those small businesses who are struggling because of the dysfunction of Sacramento, addressing the homeless crisis, advocating and legislating nursing home reform, advocating for school choice. And I want to take it a step farther and then protect our children, give them safe learning environments behind those gates. And, of course, I am still running and always talking about ensuring clean and plentiful drinking water for people, for our farmers, to grow their crops, which feed us every day when we sit down at the dinner table at night, and the environment.
I personally left the Republican Party not too long ago because I got sick and tired of them not being sick and tired of things. I mean, there's so many candidates, so many elected officials who are just don't stand up for anything. They, a lot of platitudes and promises when they're running, but when it comes down to it and it comes down, comes time for them to actually stand for something and make a statement, they just wouldn't. When I heard you talk years ago when you were running for the water board, when I've heard you talk to folks, at other functions, the reason I was very impressed and I'm excited about your campaign is that you've kind of maybe not necessarily shared the same frustrations about the Republican Party in general, but have shared those frustrations about elected officials and have been very vocal about saying, hey, we need to stand up for things that people believe in. And the Democratic Party, say what you will about them, but man, Democrats stand up for what they believe in. And it seems like the other side of the aisle is a little bit lax on that, and I don't know why. But can you talk a little bit about that? Like when you get elected into office, how can you ensure to people that you're going to stand up for the stuff that you believe in?
Yeah, so I see the issues that we're dealing with today as not red or blue issues. Our water doesn't run red or blue. The issues I'm standing on, these are about the people. And anybody who knows me, I'm passionate about the work I do in the community. I have the community experience, which separates me as a candidate. I have the professional background, which separates me as a candidate. And I have the political will to do what I'm going to say I'm going to do. But you're right. We do see elected officials that don't stand on what they're going to say they're going to do. I look at it this way. I've lost too much under the Sacramento function. I've already lost my father, and I'm not going to lose my child to the world and what's going on. So I will stand on my principles. I'm not afraid to do that. And, I put out a newsletter with the current elected position I'm in right now to 25,000 individuals across all divisions of the water board, and I publish my vote. I let people know the way I vote, and I let them know why. I'm just not afraid to do that. I'm a pretty common sense individual, and I will stand on principle, and I will protect the people, and I will stand for the people. Like I said, these issues to me today are not red and blue.
Yeah,
these are just basic people issues.
There's one of the things that really impressed me is that you publish your votes. You tell people, hey, this is how I vote on different issues. And believe it or not, you're kind of alone on that. There aren't a whole lot of people out there that do that. If they can hide their votes, they're happy to do it. So I was really, really happy to see you do that when you got into office, and I think that's great. Let's talk a little bit about the district, because I think a lot of people out there don't get involved with campaigns because they just don't think good things are ever going to happen. Your district is winnable, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a very viable district. So I could talk about the split of it right now. So it's about 37% Dem, 29% Republican, and 33% no party, which is a shift because we're starting to see a lot more people choose, hey, I'm not choosing one side or the other. They're starting to look for common sense candidates at this point. So my district is basically now, this is on the backdrop. These lines will be redrawn sometime in January. But right now, if you looked at the district, I have San Pasqual Valley, a little bit of Rancho Santa Fe, Torrey Highlands, Carmel Valley, Sorrento Valley, Poway, Forest Ranch, Scripps Ranch, down the 15, all the way to Montgomery Field, a little bit of UC area. I think if the lines are going to be redrawn, I think it may just shift a little bit east, southeast a little bit. I may pick up a little bit of El Cajon, Santee. We're just not sure, but I don't think it's going to change too drastically. But in a nutshell, that's what it is. We have about 322,000 registered voters in that district alone.
So you were happy to get my personal endorsement. I'm a big gun nut. People, that's no secret. It's what I do for a living. We're going to do a fundraiser at a gun range. I've never heard you back down from talking about Second Amendment issues in California. You're on Gun Owners Radio. Tell me, why is it important for you to talk about the Second Amendment and stand up for it?
Yeah, so I'll always stand for the Second Amendment. The right to self-defense, I believe, is a basic human right, and gun ownership is a part of that right. I grew up, in the Valley in an agricultural family. I've grown to respect guns. I know how to handle them. I'm not afraid of them. And, we got to think about the laws that are coming down the pike right now are punishing gun owners that are responsible gun owners that aren't doing harm. And I don't believe in that. We have a right to defend ourselves. So I stand wholeheartedly on the Second Amendment. I won't back down from that because the government is not going to come in and protect you. And with the way that defund the police is happening right now, they're not going to get there in time. But I won't let anybody harm me or my family.
And I've really been impressed with, you've been very inquisitive on, there's so much nuance when it comes to California gun law. And a lot of folks, a lot of our members, many of our listeners, we're kind of in this bubble where we know every single little in, out, and nuance. And you've been extremely inquisitive and asked very intelligent questions about the problems that gun owners have. Because the problems we have don't make sense. The laws that are in California don't make sense. They're not. They still make sense. So I really appreciate that. So what? How can people help you? Or what's the key to success here?
Well, the key to success is, come and talk to me, get to know me. I'm willing to meet, at coffee, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I mean, I will meet large groups, small groups. I want people to hear from me, talk to me so they know I'm a real person. I have real experience. And, I'm willing to fight for the people. And the way you can help me is to donate today in any amount, because it all adds up, and you can donate at KristieBruceLane.com. or host a fundraiser. I've got people contacting me all the time, and I'm very, very grateful. Every penny counts in a race like this. This is a very viable seat, and I need you out there in the public, and you need me in Sacramento.
What's your website?
www.KristieBruceLane.com.
Excellent.
All right, Kristie, thank you very, very much. And I see we have a mutual friend, Charger Steve, so that's always a good sign.
Great.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. But before I go, stick around, because the next segment is Joe Dramisi and Gunsight CEO Ken Campbell.
We're excited to have Ken Campbell, CEO of Gunsight Academy, rejoin the show right after this.
But first, maybe you heard of Mike Lindell and MyPillow. Well, his company was banned because he stood against the cancel culture mob. What happened to MyPillow is not right. Our freedom of speech is just as important as our freedom of self-defense. We are thrilled to support an American company like MyPillow. Go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code FreeMarket3 and get up to 66% off America's best pillows. Get a great night's sleep and enjoy the satisfaction of supporting companies fighting against cancel culture. That's MyPillow.com and use the code FreeMarket3 for up to 66% off.
All right, so we have Ken Campbell with us. Conrad Campbell, are you out there?
Hey, Free America calling. Free America calling.
All
John
right.
has a long mustache, just like D-Day.
All right, welcome to the People's Republic. So,
Fortunately, I'm in Free America. I'm in Arizona. So,
yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. You were feeling under the weather last time I talked to you. You all recovered and happy again?
oh yeah. I got my mute button ready to push here because I had a little bout with COVID. My wife and I did. We had basically the flu for about a day and a half, but we got on to the hydrochloroquine, and it worked for us, and I was back at it for a week. Still got a little bit of fatigue, and again, I hack a little bit, but oh well, it's the life's better than I deserve.
I thought you always hacked. Didn't you? But
Pardon me?
I said I thought you always hacked. But
oh yeah, well I kind of do, but cigars and bourbon usually cure it. So,
so yeah, if you'd have caught the first few minutes of the show, we were talking a little bit about that. I think Michael discovered his favorite new whiskey.
Yeah, Campfire by High West. Oh my gosh,
I'm gonna have to write that one down and look for it at the store.
So yeah, we're talking about that too because I think I'm rediscovering bourbon now. So I've been dealing with Buffalo Trace and I was telling you, my wife got me a bottle of Blanton's for my birthday. So that was worked out really well. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yes, it is.
So hey, Ken,
that's my holiday bourbon. One for the special occasions is Blanton's.
And that's what I'm thinking. If I only have one birthday a year, so I'm thinking that's okay. I can
We're
splurge
going
on
bourbon again?
I know.
What's up with that?
The show's getting better and better.
Better and better.
All right, back to it. So, Ken, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you being from Free America and all right now. A lot going on in that Arizona area, and I wanted to ask you, your feel for, how are the people looking at that? Like, you've got the that audit that's going on about the election, and all the threats from D.C. about gun ownership and all the things that the president wants to ban now and everything. What's the feel in your area? Because you're plugged in, obviously, with all the gun owners that way.
Well, we live up in northern Arizona, in the Prescott area, and that's it's very different than Maricopa County, than Phoenix. The demographics there are very different. It's a more liberal community there. But that's where the audit's going on, and it's very, very polarized. Folks are either very much for it or very much against it. The Board of Supervisors in Maricopa County are fighting the state Senate every step of the way that they can. You know, I'm just an old country sheriff, but I always thought that sunlight was a good thing. And the more you can bring things out in daylight, the better off you are. So why fight them? Let them do their audit and get this done and see where we are. But it's very polarized down in Maricopa County, but up in Yavapai County, up in the Prescott area, it's I think the public very much wants to see this audit and get the smoke blown away.
Yeah, and that's what that's what we would hope it would be anyway. And you guys, you know, at Gun Sight, you get students from all over the country that come out there, basically. And, you know, these are gun people. These are serious people that take the time and the expense and everything to come out and train with the best at Gun Sight. And what do you hear from people around the country about just, again, the political climate, the threats to the Second Amendment, that kind of stuff? Because we have kind of a skewed view out here, you know, being in California.
I'll tell you, but we're seeing a lot of California residents. They come over and are taking classes because, just like other folks around the country, the folks that are more liberal-minded are coming to the realization that the world may not be the rainbows and unicorns that they once thought it was, and they need to learn how to protect themselves. And maybe these gun laws aren't such good things. I've heard from some folks in California, matter of fact, that they decided they wanted to go buy a gun, and they went in. And it's like, wait, what do you mean, wait? What do I have to wait for? You know, I'm an honest person. So some of those folks are waking up. With us, we think it's an opportunity when we can train these folks up to bring them from the dark side, if you will. And but we're seeing, again, more and more of these folks that are not traditional gun owners are becoming gun owners, and they're recognizing these laws are here to protect them. Not the anti-gun laws, but the Second Amendment type laws.
Yeah, and, you know, we hear that, too, from a lot of the shop owners around here, you know, talking about the new people, the first-time gun owners, and when they go in to buy that gun, a lot of them are shocked at what it goes through because they've been listening for years how easy it is to get a gun. Everybody's got guns. And then they go in and they run into the, you know, our 10-day waiting period and the background checks and all that. And, you know, you hear a lot of shock over that kind of stuff.
Right, and we hear that echoed as well from the California residents. But, again, folks from all over the country come here to Gun Sight from coast to coast. And these folks are just becoming more and more pro-gun, the ones that before would not have had one. We see folks, we do private classes also, and we're seeing some of that where it's folks that are not gun people, and we think they just want to stay within their own clan so that other people don't know they're taking gun training because of their former background as being anti-gun.
Yeah, I can't. I just had lunch today with a couple who wants to get more active with San Diego County gun owners, and they talked about how they really don't talk about the fact that they're gun owners in most of their social circles. You know, it's something we're trying to change. I think it's crucial. It's a crucial thing to change. Is that sneaking around and
we need to get the word out that we're the mainstream people,
right? Not
the people that are the antis. We got some folks that, you know, they don't want to have their picture taken when they're here. They don't want to be in the class photo because of that. But that's when they need to step up and say, no, I'm America. I'm a U.S. citizen and I'm exercising my rights. So shame on you if we can't agree to disagree on it. There's nothing wrong with you and I, you know, as neighbors. If you don't want to have a gun, that's fine. But don't punish me. Because I do want to exercise my rights. Well, and these folks need to step up and stand up.
It's true. People assume that Joe and Dave and I do this radio show because we're extremely good looking and we don't mind putting it out there. But it's actually more than that. It's not. We're not just pretty faces. You know, you have to stand up for what you believe in.
Well, I heard you guys have faces for radio.
Yes, we do.
Hi-oh.
So we're just plugging along here with folks, and we do everything we can. I spent the last 2 evenings at Friends of the NRA dinners here in the area.
Nice.
They're well attended. It's great seeing those back again. With COVID, without the COVID restrictions like we had a year ago. So it's good being around these great like-minded people.
Now, are you a shotgun instructor? Is that a part of your expertise?
Well, I don't know that I'm an expert about it, but that's one of the things I can teach here, yes. We're seeing more and more folks in classes, in shotgun classes, and more folks with revolvers in classes. We think some of that is that people are thinking that, well, if they're going to restrict guns, those may be the ones they don't restrict as quickly. We're seeing a lot of shotguns.
On the other side of the commercial, I want to ask you some shotgun questions.
Okay, I'm good for that.
RMI Mortgage. PrimeRes.com/Alpine. Are you in the military looking for help with a VA loan? Or maybe if you're looking to buy, refi, or just considering a reverse mortgage? Call our local mortgage guy that you can trust. Call Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. Call Chris Wiley at 619-722-1303 or just go to PrimeRes.com/Alpine.
So we're on with Ken Campbell. Ken, here's my shotgun question.
Okay.
So a lot of folks that use, which I'm a huge fan of shotguns. I think that people are buying too many ARs and not enough shotguns. I know a lot of people that have multiple ARs and zero shotgun. I think that's a mistake. I love shotguns. I think they're really, really great. So a lot of people use shotguns for self-defense. And do you recommend, they use the, double-aught buck, which has, 9 little shot balls in it, typically.
Right. 32 caliber pellets.
Now, typically, do you recommend the flight control?
I'll tell you what I do. Back, again, when I was a baby cop, we were issued Remington 870s and Smith & Wesson Model 15s, and we took care of business with it. Then you got into where you were really starting to get serious about patterning your shotgun, making sure you're responsible for each one of those 9.32 caliber pellets when you send it down range. All right, the bad guy's name's on the front, your name's on the back, and there's a contrail with a whole bunch of attorneys' names in that contrail following those pellets, right? So we started getting serious about patterning, and that's when like Vang Comp Systems and so on, they started doing serious work on getting guns to tighten up. And then Federal Flight Control came out. And man, oh man, I don't know what voodoo magic they use, but it works and it keeps a nice tight pattern and lets you get a little more distance with that double-aught buck pattern. And that's crucial because, again, we're responsible for each one of those pellets we send down range.
Now, so here's my question about that, and this is truly from a perspective of total ignorance. I don't know this answer, and I'm looking for someone like yourself who knows more than I do about this to give me their perspective. Why aren't we using slugs for self-defense in shotguns if we're looking for that tight pattern and, all the myths about shotguns, you don't have to aim, none of that's true. You get a nice tight pattern. If we're doing that, why aren't we just using slugs?
Well, you've been listening to Joe Biden again, right? Just step out on the porch with that double-barrel shotgun.
Right.
Right. So anyway, slugs are great. A 12-gauge slug is a 1-ounce, 3/4-inch flying doorknob of death. It does a tremendous job on stopping a lethal threat at you. But it also, you may have some over-penetration issues with that. With the double-aught buck, again, you've got 9 pellets in there that are 32 caliber. I can't disagree with using either. Back in my cop days, I carried all slugs in my gun. I wanted to be responsible for 1 bullet. I didn't want to be responsible for all 9. I knew how my gun was patterned. So I can argue both sides of this. The double-aught buck is very devastating when it hits somebody, and it is very apt to stop the fight right then and there. But then again, so is that 12-gauge slug. So the advantage of the slug is you're going to have greater distance, right? Once you exceed, even with Federal Flight Control, once you're exceeding 10, 15 yards, those 9.32 caliber pellets are going to be bigger the pattern's going to be bigger than, let's just call it a paper plate as opposed to your face, right? Because once it exceeds that target area, those pellets are missing, and they're going into that busload of nuns and orphans that's driving down the road. With the slug, it's one bullet, so you don't have to worry about your range. That is, at 12 yards, this gun, I'm good, but once I hit about 14, 15 yards, I've got to do a select slug drill and get a slug in the gun and that double-aught buck out. So it depends on how serious you want to be about it, how hard you want to train. But shotguns are wonderful self-defense weapons.
And last shotgun question: do you have any experience? I think it's Winchester has this. I think it's PDX Defender, something like that. But it's a slug and then three little 32 caliber pellets. Any experience with that? Is that a gimmick, or is that good? Or
I can't speak to that. I've not shot it,
okay.
But simpler is better. Do you really know what the pattern's going to be with that smaller slug and those little balls? Why pick one or the other?
Yeah.
You've got 9.32 caliber balls. You know exactly how it's going to pattern if you pattern your gun properly, or you've got that slug that you know where it's going to go. So when you start mixing things up here, that just complicates the problem.
All right. I appreciate it. Great perspective.
That's great. Learn so much out here too.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, Ken, I'm going to be out to see you here in October for the gas match, and that is such a cool event. And could you say a few words about that there for people that may not know what that is?
The Gunsight Alumni Shoot is a shooting match. You have to be Gunsight alumni to attend, but it's an all-day shooting match. Our great instructors donate their time, their travel. We donate the ranges, and the monies we raise, 95% of it goes to the Jeff Cooper Legacy Foundation, which is a 501c3 run by the Cooper's daughters and granddaughter. They get scholarships, and then about 5% of the money goes to the Yavapai County Friends of the NRA dinners. I was just at those the last 2 nights where we donate prizes and guns and so on. So it's an all-day shooting match. It's people you've been in classes with. It's instructors you've had before. Our term for it is it's a social engagement slightly interrupted by gunfire. But we've got everybody wins great prizes. Crimson Trace is a $10,000 to $15,000 prize sponsor. Vancomp, Remington, Glock, Smith & Wesson, and on and on and on. We have great relationships with our industry partners, and our prize table is full, so everybody wins cool prizes.
Yeah, and it's such a great
event. First Saturday in October.
And
first Saturday in October, the weather's good. It's just fun.
Yeah, and it's beautiful out there. The match is a lot of fun. The prize table is outstanding, and it's just a really overall great event. The other thing, too, I'll be out to see you in April, actually. My wife and I are coming out.
I just saw that paperwork go through. I keep track of you.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because she's going to do a PCC class, which is great because I got her one of those for Christmas. I got her a Ruger PCC, and she's just psyched up about it. She's having fun shooting it. And I thought while she's out there, I'll do the close quarter combat pistol class because I want to do that. But you guys have
close quarter good. Ibuprofen will be your friend, just so you know.
Well, I know you guys have so much to offer. There's so many classes out there. Can you say a little bit about what Gunsight's got?
Well, our website, gunsight.com, GUNSITE.com, has got all our classes, but we offer a variety of levels of pistol, carbine, rifle, shotgun, long-range rifle. We have classes out to 2,400 yards. We do, this coming week, we've got ladies pistol, where some ladies just don't want to learn with men in class. We've got what's called BRAVE, Ballistic Response Against Violent Encounters, and that's some street crimes, home defense, vehicle defense, some grappling, some trauma med. It's some real good real-world training along in there. Our advanced classes start with the 250 pistol. We've just got a little bit of everything here. We've got TAC Med classes. I know you guys are going to be talking about that, or you have been this month. Our tactical medicine class began with the military 20 years ago, and it was a 5-day class based on wartime model. Now our tactical medicine class is based on active shooter. It's a 2-day model. It's taught by trauma doctors and paramedics. It's real world stuff. I don't want to call it wilderness medicine, but it would apply to that as well. But how do you keep your buddy alive for an hour or two until the cavalry can get there to help?
And that's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you about that, because when I was browsing through, I got my wife signed up for the PCC class, and I'm looking around saying, okay, what else is going on that week that I can take? And I did notice the that 2-day medical trauma class, which wasn't scheduled the same week I'm going to be out there, but I thought that was great. I hadn't noticed that out there before. And you're saying
we try to do it on the weekend so you can kind of sandwich it, either the front end or the back end of a class. But it's very popular.
So Brave, ballistic response
against violent encounters.
That's awesome. Now, is that your program, or is that like a particular curriculum?
Well, it's a curriculum that some of our staff members wrote a few years back, and it continues to evolve. We try to run faster and jump higher as we see changes we need to make. There's also in that class, there's force-on-force simunitions type things, so you're actually working against a thinking adversary. We've got Brave coming up this week, and it's so popular, we even made an enhanced version called Brave 2.
Yeah, and I think that's been on my list.
Barbie.
Well, because I took the 350 class with the instructor, or one of the instructors that came up with the Brave course, and I can't recall his name right now, but
Bob Whaley or Jay Tuttle or
no, I want to say it was
probably
Bob.
Bob Whaley or Jay Tuttle.
Yeah,
probably Bob Whaley. He's the author of it.
Yeah, and he was telling us about it in class, and it just sounded great. So that's another one that's on my list for coming out there.
It's absolutely real world stuff. That's what it's based on. Not that 250 pistol and 350 aren't, but this setup is that scenario based stuff. So you're working around vehicles, you're working around. We set up fake ATMs. We set up home defense so that it gives you a lot to think about and plan when you do go home.
And that stuff's a lot of fun, too. I know in the 350 class, just a little bit of force-on-force we had in there that was my first exposure to that. And that's just a blast. And I think they do more of that in the Brave class. Is that right?
They do. That's correct. We'll either use simunitions or we'll use airsoft, depending on what we need to do, how we read the class.
All right, Ken. Hey, unfortunately, we got to go. It's always a joy talking to you.
It's a pleasure talking to you guys. You just give us a call anytime. Come out and see us again. We love seeing you.
Hey, we are so proud to partner with the National Concealed Carry Association as a 10-ring partner. NCCA exists to serve the Second Amendment community by providing a nationwide network of two-way advocates, offer elite self-defense and concealed carry training from the nation's top instructors, and provide rock-bottom prices on the best selection of gear and accessories. You can learn a whole lot more by going to nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com.
Hey, so we were talking about picklebacks, Jameson, and a shot of pickle juice.
I knew we were coming back.
We were coming back to whiskey again. So Carla she's helping us run Riverside County Gun Owners. Carla brought up the fact that she really likes Screwball whiskey, which is the peanut butter flavored.
Oh, yeah.
It's delicious.
What?
Oh, it's awesome. It's so delicious. I don't care. It's delicious. I love it.
Well, if you're drinking pickle juice.
So that's the thing. I love pickle and peanut butter sandwiches. I'm starting to wonder.
Nobody eats pickle and peanut butter sandwiches.
I eat pickle and peanut butter sandwiches.
What kind of pickle?
Whatever.
Dill?
Can be.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it can be the bread and butter, the sweeter ones. Depends on my mood.
That just sounds sounds fraught with danger. It's like drinking Boone's Farm when you were a kid.
Boone's Farm.
You probably like Boone's Farm too.
Hey, you know what? The Boone's Farm's kind of a strawberry with the peanut butter whiskey. You got a little peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
How sick can you get?
Oh my gosh! How about Thunderbird? Are you a Thunderbird wine fan?
I don't know that one.
With a Mad Dog. You remember
I remember Mad Dog.
Oh yeah, I remember Mad Dog.
Oh, we straight off bourbon.
Oh yeah, right straight to the toilet.
All right, so something goofy happened last week, even goofier than peanut butter whiskey and pickle juice, which I can't wait to try. Carla, thank you for that.
Now it's going to drive you crazy till you try it.
Can't wait. So last week, the city council in San Diego. Now this just applies to the actual city of San Diego. They've decided that they want to, in effect, ban 80% kits.
Right.
And an 80% kit, for those who don't know, is, the federal government had to define what a firearm is. So they said, all right, if it's 80% of the way, if a piece of metal or a piece of wood or a piece of plastic is 80% of the way to a gun, it's a gun. If it's 79% of the way there, then it's not a gun. If it's 81%, it's a gun. So they sell kits that are 80%, of a gun. So they've out of the 10 steps it takes to get to a gun, they've taken 8 of them. And it's not just a lower that you can assemble. You can't just throw an upper on there and you're good to go. You have to drill it. You have to mill it. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the expertise. That's not saying much. I can't. I can barely change.
You're not even good with springs.
I'm horrible with springs. Like I can't even change the time on my microwave. So not saying a whole lot, but still, it's not. You can't just do it.
But apparently, the average criminal has that skill, though.
Right? Exactly right. So they said, "Look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it to where." And I actually spoke with the city council member's staffer who wrote this. We spoke on the phone at length. He was, to his credit, was very interested in what the critique was of the regulation. And in effect, the way he described it, he said, hey, we're not adding an extra step. What we're doing is we're taking the step of getting a serial number, because to build a gun in California, you have to go to the California Department of Justice. You have to get a serial number. We want them to get that serial number and put it on the kit before you can buy the kit. So right now you buy the kit, and then you say, hey, Department of Justice, let me have a serial number. And then there are very strict rules, laws that you have to follow in order to get that serial number onto the kit, and then mill the kit out, and boom, you have a firearm. You have a home-built firearm. And he said, no, we want to take this and put the serial number, a couple steps prior. Here's the problem. That's impossible. You can't do that. Number one, manufacturers don't sell pieces of metal with serial numbers on them. They sell firearms with serial numbers on them. Number two, you can't get the serial number until you have the material.
The gun.
Yeah, well, it's not a gun until you have the raw material, and you can't have the raw material until you have the serial number. This is, in effect, banning it. So we talked about that, and, gee golly gosh, we just hope people, change the way they do things. And I pointed out the fact there really are just a couple of shops in the city of San Diego that even sell these kits. So there are 17 other cities in the county. There are 57 other counties in the state. There are 49 other states in the union. The city of San Diego banning, metal and
parts and pieces.
Yeah, parts and pieces that aren't firearms. It's not going to do anything. All you got to do is go, a couple miles that way and purchase it there. And again, the response was truly that this was more of a PR thing. Well, we just want to expose it, and we want people to talk about it, and we want people to know more about it. And I said, okay, well, along the way, what you're doing is you're turning, law-abiding, non-career criminals into criminals. If you go down to a gun shop in San Diego and say, hey, I want an 80% kit, and they say, well, we can't do that because they're illegal. Or if they don't even say that, they just say, we don't sell that here. Try, La Mesa or El Cajon, and they, okay, great, thanks. And they go buy it in La Mesa or El Cajon. They take it back to their home, and they get busted. Well, they don't even have to put it together. Just possession of this thing, and they could get busted. Now the question, everybody always says, well, I'm not going to get busted. Something like 85% of violations of the assault weapons law happened it was like a secondary issue. So there was a medical emergency or a fire, or they were there to, for a noise complaint or something like that, and discovered an assault weapon, or what California considers an assault weapon. So if you have a kit, and you have a medical emergency, and the ambulance and the cops show up, and there's that piece of metal sitting on your dining room table that you didn't even know was illegal, well, boom, now you're a criminal. You're not stopping criminals. You're turning law-abiding people, non-career criminals, into criminals. They voted for this thing 8-1. 8 people to 1. Chris Cate, to his credit, stood up and said this is ridiculous and pointed out just how ridiculous it was. Wendy Hoffman, our CEO, did a fantastic job. She made a statement and talked all about how ridiculous this thing is. In September, they're going to have a second reading. They're going to vote again. I'm not anticipating. They have to do that. It's required. I'm not anticipating changing any votes. It's going to be another 8-1 vote. We'll get everybody to show up. You need to show up. You need to. You actually don't even have to show up, by the way. It's all done via Zoom because of COVID.
They're still zooming.
They're still zooming right along. So, but this whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous. It just makes no sense. It's not going to stop crime. It's just, the ability to appease their extremist base and these anti-gun folks who've decided the latest boogeyman.
And anger
is
the legal gun owners, because they're also angering a large community in California or San Diego, for that matter. I mean, they're just making them
large
angry.
Community, but not organized enough, and that's one thing we're trying to do. But they're not. They have zero fear. To put out a law like this, that's so ridiculous, that's been, that isn't going to do anything other than villainize gun owners. Really, that means they do not fear you as a gun owner, even politically. Fear you as a gun owner. It means that you don't matter in their political world.
Well, look what Joe just did with extending the eviction notice. And he came right out and said...
I thought you meant Joe Dramisi.
No,
I
you
didn't
did that, Joe?
It. Yeah, Joe did. But, he came right out and said, we know this isn't legal.
Yeah, and they don't care. I mean, it doesn't
matter. Because the
anymore.
other side will have to go to court, and that'll give us an opportunity to extend it.
Well, and that's the California strategy. They do a lot of that out here, and they know things aren't legal or aren't constitutional, but it'll take years to work through the courts. The government's got unlimited money. These people have to challenge it, have to fundraise. So,
and it's really just they chip away and chip away and chip away. I'm anticipating that more municipalities are going to follow suit. I'm also a little birdie has assured me that there's going to be a lawsuit that we're going to be proud to be a part of.
Sure. We're
absolutely going to be proud to be a part of a lawsuit against this thing because, it's such a blatant violation, making something impossible to buy. That's not a reasonable gun restriction.
Does it say 80% on the box?
Some of them do. Some of them don't.
Could you just eliminate something and make it a 78?
Well, I actually pointed that. See, all these things, when I'm talking to the guy that wrote the regulation, he said, well, I told him, hey, people are going to get in trouble. People are going to get in trouble, not criminals. People are going to get in trouble. And he said, well, what I'd really like you to help me with is do an education campaign so that people know that this regulation is out there. And I said, well, the first thing I'm going to do is an education campaign so that all the gun shops know that they need to sell these 80% kits outside of the city limits. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do an education campaign for the manufacturers so that they know they need to sell 79% kits rather than 80% kits. And then when I'm done with those educational campaigns, then maybe we can talk about an educational campaign, that talks about this law. And he laughed, and he gets it. But the thing is they don't care. They don't fear us yet, especially in the city of San Diego. Now, that's not true in some other cities, not true in other parts of California. But when it comes to the city of San Diego, they don't fear us enough yet. And it's because
they will.
Not enough. They will. And it's not because not enough people are not taking political action. Now, we're going to show up. I think it's September 14th. Get on our email list. We need you to become a member. We need you to voice your concerns. We need you to show up. And again, this time you don't even have to show up. You just got to get on Zoom. So we're just talking about September 14th, taking a couple of hours out of your day and going on Zoom and making an educated, polite, professional statement.
If you don't know what to say, I bet you could go to sdcgo.org and there'll be a script.
We're going to talk all about it. But honestly, it's more about what you shouldn't say. Don't call them names.
Right.
Don't
insult him. Don't yell,
insult
holler, and
them.
scream.
Yeah, just tell them, hey, here's who I am, and here's why I'm concerned about this.
Well, see,
it's that simple.
And I'm optimistic about that because I think the silver lining with all this extremism that we're seeing, in California, locally in San Diego, and nationally from Washington, is it's pushing people now. I think people are starting to get more awake with this kind of stuff, and they're starting to notice, and you're starting to see more pushback. You're seeing it at the school board level and things like that with a lot of this stuff. So I think, the good thing is I think this extremism is going to start bringing people out and getting
I just
involved.
had a great idea. Have you ever thought about going down and getting 8 kits and taking the kits to these people and say, go home, put a gun together, and let's talk about it.
I know. I'll give you the weekend.
They're not going to be able to do it.
I'll give you a $25 Home Depot gift card.
If you can put one of these together.
And then I'll give you the weekend, and then you come back with a gun. I dare you.
But they're not going to be able to.
But it's not about that. It's about making us bad guys.
But they make it sound like you can buy that kit, and a 12-year-old can do it.
So go to San Diego County GunOwners.com. We need you to join. We need you to support us. We need you on our email list. We need you to make sure that your voices are heard.
Well, we live in a state where your self-defense rights are under attack. Let us be your voice to help defend and restore the Second Amendment. Help spread the word about the fight. There's 2 easy ways you can do it. Like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, the podcast, or whatever way you like to listen to the show. And share this show with as many friends as you can. And thanks for tuning in. And remember, together we will win.
So we just had Carla, who from Riverside, we were just talking about.
Yeah,
she just sent me video of her trying her first pickleback,
and
she loved it.
Is she on the floor?
No,
flopping around like a fish out of water.
I think her exact quote was that it oddly it works or something like that. Congratulations, Carla. Good job. Hoo-ah. What are we doing?
We're
on the radio.
We're going to stump your nephew.
All right, every week we get people to write in and ask questions of Sam the Gunman, who is my nephew. And if we use your question, then you get a T-shirt or a hat, whichever you like. If you stump my nephew, then you get a membership to Front Sight, which is a lifetime of training, pistol, rifle, shotgun, carbine, and other. So, Sam, you there?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Good, man. How are you?
Not bad.
Fantastic. Hey, we had a guy on earlier. His name is Ofer Lichtman, and he does Traumapak. Check out the company Traumapak, Traumapak.
Okay.
You might have a long-lost relative there. He actually grew up in Israel, too, but he said that I asked him if he was related to Gideon Lichtman, and he said he was not. So, anyway, where were we? Okay, Kevin from Paris, California. Kevin wants to know, what pistol named after a cat features a rotating barrel?
What was that? Tom from Paris?
Kevin from Paris.
Kevin from Paris. Great question. Thanks for writing in. Beretta has a line of not very well known anymore subcompact pistols called the Beretta and the Tomcat. There's also the Jetfire, which is a little bit different. But the Tomcat and the Bobcat, they're different calibers, have this really interesting barrel that tips up. You can open the chamber instead of by racking the very small slide. You push forward on a lever just above the trigger guard, and the barrel pops open. They're still making these today. You can buy them in 32 ACP. They come with a threaded barrel. I think a 5 or 6 round magazine. But, really interesting, not well-known pistol.
So this guy writes in, and we didn't. I don't think we researched this, but this guy claims it's the Beretta Cougar.
Okay.
Is that? I don't know. Is that the same line that we're talking about, or
he's talking the Cougar? Then that would be like a recoil-operated system, like the PX4 Storm, which, instead of having a tilting barrel, has a rotating barrel that delays the breech from opening. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to handle a PX4, but you're familiar with the way most modern pistols work, like Glocks, SIGs, 1911s, anything like that. The barrel is locked into the slide for the first part of travel, and then it tips down to unlock. The PX4 and the Cougar have a barrel that rotates to unlock.
That's correct. Which was what he was saying, the rotating barrel.
Okay, I think I just misunderstood the question.
I think the Cougar is also what makes the Cougar different is it used to be really hot, but now it's.
I was hoping for the Sylvester, actually. Said it was a cat.
Now it's kind of older. You can tell that the Beretta Cougar used to be hot, but now it just kind of hangs out in hotel lobbies and buys Anyway, all right. That's horrible. All right, I don't know if you won that one or not, so I'm going to give Kevin a Front Sight membership anyway because I like the fact that he's from Paris. And excellent job. You, as always, know exactly what you're talking about and do a fantastic job, Sam.
Well, I appreciate that. As always, thanks for having me on. It's always interesting to see what kind of questions people send in, what sort of stuff they're interested in.
Now, are you a whiskey guy, Sam?
Am I a whiskey guy? No, I have to confess I'm not. I have a very close friend who is a real connoisseur, shall we say, of bourbon. But I can't get past the whole 15-minute process of bringing it closer and farther from your nose and inhaling the aromas and the notes and whatnot. I'm just not that big of a drinker. Sorry.
All right, fair enough.
To disappoint.
That's all right. Manischewitz, right? You like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, who doesn't like Manischewitz? It's grape juice that happens to have alcohol in it. You can buy it by the liter and a half, and it's like $10 for that.
There you go. All right, Sam, awesome job, man. I really appreciate it.
Take care, buddy.
You too. Have a good night.
And now it's time for this week's Mic Drop.
Mic drop.
Murrieta is a nice little town in Riverside County. If you haven't been, check it out. It's a nice place to visit. It's a nice place to live. Recently had the pleasure of meeting with their police chief, Tony Conrad. To their credit, Murrieta started issuing CCWs a few years ago, back when the former Sheriff Sniff, refused to improve their CCW program. As a result, it was near impossible to get a CCW in under 2 years. That sheriff is now gone, and the new sheriff, Sheriff Bianco, fixed the problem real quick, which is why he earned the endorsement of Riverside County gun owners for his reelection. Because Murrieta was one of the first cities to issue, they really wanted to see their A. I get it, makes sense, and part of their CYA was including a psychological evaluation on every single applicant. This added a $150 additional cost, but at the time, if that's what you had to do to get a CCW, okay, fine. They were really out in front, and we appreciate their leadership. But the calculus has changed. It's now years later, and almost every county in California is issuing. Even some of the tough counties like San Diego and LA are issuing. Nobody requires a psychological evaluation, and let's talk about this psych evaluation. This test is little more than a personality test. It doesn't test to see if you're crazy. It evaluates your personality to see how you respond to stress, etc. It's mainly used to test candidates who are going to become cops or security guards, and they test them before they're hired. But it's just a personality test. That's it. And there is no requirement in the Constitution, last time I checked, that a person has to have the same personality as a cop before they can protect their life outside of their home. So I met with Police Chief Conrad. The first thing he says to me in the meeting, he tells me not to worry. They have never turned down a single application based on the psych evaluation. Okay, then let's get rid of it, right? If it's only adding cost to the tune of $150 additional per person, and you aren't actually using it to determine denials, stop sticking it to the voters by charging them an extra $150 to test their personality. The chief says to me, you keep calling it a personality test, but that's not what it is. Okay, I tell the chief, it also tests a person to make sure that they're mentally ill, right? It doesn't test a person to make sure they're mentally ill, right? Can we agree on that? And he said, yeah, he agreed. It doesn't test to make sure if the person's mentally ill. So I asked him, all right, then what does it test if it's not a personality test? He stumbled around a bit and kind of hemmed and hawed. And I say to him that it tests people's reactions and how they handle stress and pressure in certain situations, right? He agreed with me again. I pointed out that there's actually a term for those kinds of reactions that we had just agreed that the test tests, and that term is personality. It's a personality test. The conversation was frankly ridiculous. The chief dug his heels in, and no matter how much I proved, he had no idea what he was talking about, nor did he have any kind of good reason for requiring the personality test. His main reason was, and exactly what he said, is that because he said so. That was his reason. It's my program. I'm putting my name on the CCWs. We're going to do this personality test because I say so. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a tyrant. It's a mini tyrant in his own little fiefdom, in his own little domain. But a tyrant nonetheless. He was appointed by Republican city council members. Those are Republicans I now have to go convince to force the chief to change his policy. Republicans are supposed to be pro-Second Amendment, right? Well, wish me luck on this. And Chief Conrad is a career cop. I keep hearing that all of them are pro-Second Amendment, too. So wish me luck on that again. The Second Amendment is codified in our Constitution so tyrants like Conrad can't infringe on our rights. But just like a restraining order, The Constitution is nothing more than a piece of paper. It's just a list of ideas, unless we make the effort and take the actions to defend it. And that's what we're doing every single day at every single turn. Chief Conrad is just the latest, but he won't be the last, and it's the reason that San Diego County gun owners, Orange County gun owners, San Bernardino County gun owners, and Riverside County gun owners exists and is important to support. And that is your mic drop.
Mic drop.
Are you ready?
Bam.
Hey, folks, are you listening on YouTube, on the podcast? Do us a favor, hit and like that subscribe button and share the show with as many friends as you can have, and leave a comment too. And it really does help us to get around their algorithms. So please support all our great sponsors as well. San Diego County Gun Owners, U.S. Law Shield, Dillon Law Group, PRMI Mortgage, Blackhound Optics, National Concealed Carry Association, and our newest partner, 365 Glacier Payments. And I can't thank Joe Germisi, Michael Schwartz, Sam the Gunman, and yes, the man in the box, Brendan Thomas, for all their support. You guys can go to gunownersradio.com for podcasts, latest information. Maybe you got a comment, question. We don't have enough airtime to take calls, so this is the best way to do it. gunownersradio.com. Come on out to the barbecue on
August 18th, Wednesday.
Great barbecue. And don't forget, Gun Prom is right around the corner.
October 16th, Saturday.
Still got some tables.
A lot of tables
available. Not according to Wendy. Wendy says you have 2.
Wendy's going to wring my neck for the amount of tables we're selling.
All right, folks. Hey, our good buddy Bob's in the wings. He's got a great show lined up. That's Bob Siegel right here on Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.